Welcome back to Center Stage. I'm Bankole Thompson. You're watching Diversity, All Politics is Local here on WADL TV 38. Our guest is Diamo Murphy, political analyst, political consultant, and you name it. Just quickly to this whole issue with the November election, we have 18 candidates running for City Council, 18 for City Charter Commission. I mean, how can voters arrive at a decision to get people who are most qualified in November?
Well, one, it's good to be with you, Bankole. That's a good question. I think that when you deal with this election in the cut, it makes it a lot easier for voters to be able to get involved and really start to wade through. There's a website that I went to that's put on by University of Michigan, Dearborn, and some other folks. It's called My Vote, and that has really been able to give a good snippet of each candidate because they were able to go on and film, answer some questions on film, so you can get a chance to see their mannerisms, also hear what their plans and positions were. So I think that that's a helpful deal, and then people have to do their homework. So
people have to do their homework.
They have to do their homework, and you know the media has been a little bit more helpful this time than I think they have been in times past.
What do you mean? Explain.
Well, when I say that, that it seems like everyone realizes that the region is in such crisis right now that it's necessary for everyone to not so much sensationalize or to kind of cherry pick their people. So the editorial boards, it seems like they pull back a little bit, and they're kind of giving some highlights to some people that you wouldn't normally see. I've seen a lot of press, even the Chronicle has been at the forefront of making certain that the candidates are highlighted and that it wasn't just a select group of people who got a chance to see it, but it was those people who were viable and those people who were on the fringe.
There's a lot of conversation about change coming to City Hall. Do you think it's going to happen since all of the incumbents are running, except for those who have announced their early resignation?
Or on their way
on their way out.
On their way out, right. So I think there is some change. I think there's some great potential here. I mean, obviously with Mr. Pugh coming in
Charles
ahead,
Pugh.
right, coming in ahead of Mr. Cockrell for the in the cut. It means
well, were you surprised that?
No, I wasn't surprised. I'd had a few conversations with Mr. Pugh at different times because I was interested in his candidacy and to see how well it would go over. One, his own personal life, and then also to see how well he was liked outside of a media environment. And so, I mean, I knew he was comfortable in front of a camera, but he's knowledgeable, and he's really has a down-to-earth message that I think resonated with the voters as was reflected in the results.
Well, it was reported that Mayor Cockrell intimated that he's not going to go down without a fight. You think Charles Pugh can pull it off for
the presidency?
Yes.
It's quite likely. I mean, first of all, there's always this ability for a candidate to run for the presidency, but it's how well you connect with the voters, and so it's going to be determined by how well they both get out and work. And then how much the city does want change, because when you get down to 18, it's much easier for you to decide, who you want for change. And then how sophisticated the voters are, whether they vote for a full 9 slate, or whether they selectively vote for the candidates of their choice, which supercharges some of those candidates.
We have limited time, but I'm trying to push a lot of things into this conversation, Diamo. But switching the pendulum quickly to the City Charter Commission.
Right.
I think there's been a lot of talk about the fact that not many people know, how important that is and why we need to know who the candidates that are running. These 18 candidates need to really be vetted. What's your take?
Well, I mean, there's always an exit door for the charter, which is that ultimately, no matter what they put together, once you have the 9 members on the Charter Commission, and as they go through the process, and those are always open to the public, so you have an opportunity to engage the process all the way through. And if they don't like the charter that's been put forward, if they think it's too politicized, there's always the option to vote it down. And so people don't have to accept the final charter. And so that's always a good safety valve. I think that some of the people who got through are very interesting. The Charter Commission is mixed. So many we don't know. But then some of those people like Freeman Hendricks, like Teola Hunter, who we know have a vested concern and a genuine interest in seeing the city run more efficiently, and especially with someone like a Freeman Hendricks, where the voters may not have been able to figure him for mayor. But I think that this might be a good fit for him because he's a technocrat and he likes to know the ins and outs of how systems run. And so I think that he may do very well on there.
What do you think are the fundamental changes that needs to be made in the Charter Commission?
Well, they've got to address the issue of city council, whether it's going to be districts or at large. I think that...
do you support districts?
I've always supported districts, and there are different ways you can look at it, but I think that we've got to come down on the side of every other office that we elect, from state representative, state senator to county commissioner, runs out of districts. So the whole argument about we can't run a city council out of districts is ridiculous. This is the largest city that runs at large. And we don't even run at large for 9 separate seats, which would allow people to say I'm running against this particular council person. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's just necessary to have the district overlay, to have representative government in every pocket of the city, and to give I think even districts would give the opportunity, as your previous guest was saying, of people in Southwest to be able to self-determine and maybe even have a representative on the council, which it should be.
But the downside to district is that people say, look, if you elect people in districts, what happens is, in fact, if they have so much loyalty there, they can never be removed from office.
Well, but that's representative government, isn't it? And so, I mean, when you have
so they can be in office for 100 years.
Well, but if the whole point, I never believed in term limits, and I believe that a good Democratic base in a smaller area where you can mount up a campaign against someone who's not a good politician or who's not a good representative, then it's the people's will and it's the people's responsibility, if they don't like that person or they think that person's not viable or representing their interests, to remove them. And so I think the term limits put in an artificial removal, and sometimes it cuts down the learning curve, and sometimes it makes people move way too fast.
So you don't support time limits for city council?
I don't support term limits at all.
You don't support term limits?
Right, I don't support term limits. I just believe that in a true democracy, if people are tired of their representative and need someone different, that they elect someone different.
What about the school board election?
School board, I was surprised that there was not as much change. Do
they need a change? You have an emergency financial manager.
Obviously, they need some change, because as long as the board is there, you know, and when the courts decide what the role of Robert Bobb will be, whether it's academic and financial.
Was it right to take him to court?
Well, I don't know that it was anything more than a distraction. I think Robert Bobb was on a very good track, and I think that he was on a track that was necessary and one that the school board should have done in years past. And so he made a good point even at a forum that I think you moderated, where he said that, you know, I'm not doing anything new. I'm doing what has been in your plans that you haven't had the will to do, and so I have the will and the authority to do it, and I'm doing it. And so I like Robert Bobb's aggressiveness.
Well, thank you very much, Diamo, for coming on the program. This is Center Stage with Bankole Thompson. Watching on WADL TV 38. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers and issues to deal with that we grapple with in the community. Don't forget to read my articles in the Michigan Chronicle newspaper.